Welcome to the South Oceanside Candidate Forum for the District 3 City Council seat. Our forum features Laura Bassett and Jimmy Figueroa. We reached out to all 4 candidates to complete our issues survey. These 2 candidates completed the survey, and their responses are posted on the Save South O website, and they were invited to join this forum. Now please enjoy the unedited video of our forum.
So I guess we'll go alphabetical by last name. So Bassett, then Figueroa, and then we'll alternate after that.
Okay. Hi, my name's Laura Bassett, and I'm born and raised in District 3, actually Fire Mountain. Still live there to this day, in the house that my mom bought in 1978. I have lived here almost my entire life, other than going away to college. I went to USC, got a degree in accounting, came back home, got married. I've been married 31 years. I have 6 children, 5 daughters and a son. I raised them all right here in Oceanside. Oh yeah, it didn't start. I raised them all right here in Oceanside, and I'm a local business owner. I'm a real estate broker and a professional fiduciary. So I help people with their futures, planning their finances, and do a little bit of property management as well. I think that what makes me unique is the fact that I am a local business owner. So I come from a place of understanding what it means to run a business and put food on the table and work for myself. I love Oceanside. Someone asked me earlier why now and why politics. I spent most of my adult life raising my children, and we all did musical theater. So I spent most of my community effort pouring into my children to raise good, responsible adults, which I feel like I've accomplished that. They all did community theater, mostly at the Star Theater. And now that they're gone and I'm an empty nest, I wanted to give back to my community. I feel like my top 3 priorities are public safety. I'm endorsed by the police and the fire association. Homelessness, dealing with getting people off the streets and clearing encampments. And then just the beaches, getting sand on our beaches is a huge priority for me. We've made a lot of strides recently in planning, but now we need to push forward and make sure we see all that come to fruition, and that will benefit our economy. There's so many other issues I could talk about, and I'm sure we'll have questions tonight. But I really hope to be your next city councilwoman. And my name's Laura Bassett. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jimmy Figueroa. I am a husband and a father of 2 beautiful girls. I was born and raised in Oceanside. I have lived in Oceanside the majority of my life, other than when I went to UC Berkeley. I lived in the Berkeley community for a couple of years. I've been serving my community my entire adult life as a nonprofit professional. I've served with our youth here in the community, working with the Vista Community Clinic, running after school programs with Project Reach. In 2018, I got the opportunity to launch a brand new program with the County of San Diego to serve reentry youth here in Oceanside. And in 2022, I had the opportunity to become the CEO of a local homeless shelter for families with children. I've held leadership roles with the Oceanside Unified School District and some of their advisory committees with Main Street. I was appointed by the County of San Diego to be on the North County Gang Commission. I also serve currently on the Oceanside Police and Fire Commission. I've also served on advisory roles for the Oceanside Public Library. I'm currently a board member with the Maricosta College Foundation, and I'm also a co-chair of the North County Community Leadership Team meeting with Live Well San Diego. I share all that with you because I've had an impact on this city as a community leader and a proven leader regionally, not just in Oceanside. I've worked with our cities across the 78 corridor, all the way to San Diego, making an impact serving our most underserved and under-resourced communities. After knocking on thousands of doors and spending time here in South O canvassing this community, my top 3 priorities are homelessness, affordability, and infrastructure. The community of South O has really shared that infrastructure is a big issue here in our communities, from parking to traffic and traffic calming measures. And as your council member, these are the things I'm going to prioritize. Thank you.
Thank you. Colleen, your 2 questions.
What now?
Your 2 questions.
I don't have 2.
first question is, the state's pressure to increase housing density threatens to...
She can't hear.
Sure. Okay, Jimmy's gonna take the first question, and the question is, the state's pressure to increase housing density, is that better, Elizabeth? Can you hear me now? Okay. The state's pressure to increase housing density threatens to destroy the character of South O and Fire Mountain. Under what conditions would you reject higher density to protect the local character?
Yeah, that's a great, did everyone hear the question? So, can everyone hear me? So, I think us as a city, we need to push back against the state and take control. I think that is very important. We can't just allow the state to tell us what we're gonna do here in Oceanside. However, with that being said, the council still needs to have accountability on the decisions that they're making. Recently, the council has used the state as an excuse to continue to approve some of these projects. These projects are impacting South O. When we build projects like the one we have across the street and there's 3 bedrooms to 1 parking place, that's an issue for our community. And those are things that we need to push back. For me, I am representing the community, I'm representing the people. I vowed and promised to not receive any endorsements from any developers. And that's because I want to ensure the community that I'm going to advocate for the people of here of South O and the people of Fire Mountain. Thank you.
Same
Go
question.
ahead, Laura, same question.
So I agree with Jimmy. I do feel like we've lost a lot of our local control. I have learned recently, though, that because we are a charter city, that we might have the advantage to push back against the state, but we need to get with other charter cities to push against the state to stop telling us what our community should look like. You know, a lot of these developments are being approved because if we don't, the city attorney has basically said, you'll get sued, it'll cost us more money. The city of Huntington Beach pushed back, they got sued. Now they're under whatsoever in their development. The developers can do anything they want in their city. So we have to be careful that we don't get into that mess. But as far as locally what we can do now, I think we can come up with some design standards so that if we are building, we have barriers in place so that we aren't just overrun with big box buildings. As far as parking, again, I know that the developers don't have to, so I think we need to work with the development community as they're building to say, hey, this is our feedback. We want more parking within your structures. And I think if we look at it as a collective, instead of fighting with our developers, we work with them and say, this is what our community really, really wants, then they will hopefully listen. Because I know a lot of them have taken feedback for a lot of the projects, and they do make changes. And I think we just need to make sure we're having that open dialogue, so we're not just overrun with whatever they decide. And that's how it happened, right? They had a unlimited density, I think, for a while downtown or something like that, height-wise. And it was like, and they took advantage of it. Well, they've put in some barriers now with the city council. We need to make sure that we're doing that, so we're not caught off guard with a lot of these big developments that don't fit in our communities.
Okay, so Laura, we're going to start with you on the second question. And this is, how can the city improve how it investigates and corrects unethical behavior by city staff and elected officials?
Oh, that's a deep question. Loaded question. You know, I think that having an audit of our city is very, very important from top to bottom. I think that we need to make sure that the city staff and the council is continuously auditing themselves or being audited maybe even by an outside firm to make sure that we're the most efficient and that we are being the best city that we can be. I haven't heard of like too many terrible things inside our city, but I'm sure there's always things that go wrong or that can be fixed. And I just think if we're gonna be serious about being an efficient, respected government, that we are constantly looking inward and making sure that we are above board and that our city staff feels supported as well, so they don't feel like they have to be pressured to do anything that is unethical. So I think that just that efficiency audit would go a long way to make sure that we're above board. I mean, there's election contribution laws that are in place, but a lot of it actually disguises what's actually being spent on elections, which I can't control. That's the state. But I think as a city, we can continue to work on ourselves and have audits to make sure that our city staff and our departments are working effectively and honestly.
Can you rephrase it? Or can you say it again, please?
Yeah. Okay. How can the city improve how it investigates and corrects unethical behavior by city staff and or elected officials?
Yeah, that's a great question. As a former CEO of a nonprofit organization here in our region, you know, it's very important that the accountability and transparency of any organization is clear with the community and those that it's serving. I believe that with anything going on internally with staff, I think that we have a human resource department that needs to investigate any allegation that is ever made. California law does prevail when it comes to employment law. And so I think it's very important that we take any matter brought by the community very serious. When it comes to our elected officials, I think a lot of it starts here at the campaign level. We're currently subsidizing the Oceanside Chamber for their location, yet they have a PAC and they're endorsing candidates. I think that is become something that's become very serious for the community, and it's brought up a lot of questions. I think that's something that also needs to be audited and investigated, maybe by a third-party source, because when we talk about ethical issues, to me that's a big ethical issue. But we're an organization, and we need to run as such. And I know when I was the CEO of the shelter, whenever we had any complaint that came about, immediately it was addressed by HR, and then we addressed it as an organization like any corporation would.
Thank you. Thank you both. Okay, now it's time for the candidates to ask each other a question. And so Jimmy, go ahead and ask Laura a question. And you would like the answers.
Okay. Laura, you have received an overwhelming amount of contributions from developers. As a realtor, how will you practice without having conflicts of interest of supporting our community with upcoming developments?
So let me clarify, I've only received a couple small checks from a couple developers, and I have one developer that gave me a large contribution a while back. I have made no promises to anybody for anything. I cannot be bought. Like I said, I'm a professional fiduciary, so trust and integrity are very important to me. I have not promised any developer anything. All I have promised them that I am a fair, common sense person that will listen and wants Oceanside to grow. So I haven't received all that much from developers. I'm not sure exactly who you're referring to. I have a couple small, like $200 from a couple people. And like I said, the one developer that gave me a large amount was, again, just somebody that believed in my campaign and loves Oceanside. So I haven't really received a whole lot from developers, so I'm not sure where that overwhelming number came from. So.
Okay, Laura, go ahead and ask Jimmy a question.
Yeah, so one of the things that is important to me is public safety. And Prop 36 is on the ballot in November, which is going to help us fix a lot of the problems with Prop 47, which allowed retail theft, drug use to become misdemeanors. And you have said you don't support Prop 36. I do. And you kind of said why. I just want more clarification on why you wouldn't support a proposition that's going to help public safety, especially our police officers, and is supported by 70% of the electorate in California.
Yeah, so I, just to clarify, I am an active commissioner on the Police and Fire Commission. I've been on the last 2 hiring panels for the Oceanside Chief for here in Oceanside Police Department. I'm also on Chief Sadler of OPD on the Community Advisory Board. I've worked extensively with the District Attorney's Office, Public Defender's Office, developed programs with San Diego County Office of Probation. So I work very close with law enforcement and have been a part of public safety here in Oceanside and decreasing our crime rate here in Oceanside for the past decade. I've shared this publicly, and I've shared this with our leadership here in OPD, that there are some modifications that need to be done to Prop 47, but Prop 36 has taken it too far. In essence, where it's going to end up reallocating money, taking money away from a lot of the amazing preventative work that we've been able to do here in the city and in the county, and also taking funding away from some of our reentry services. And so it's not that Prop 47 doesn't need modifications, it's just that Prop 36 is taking it too far, where it's going to take money away from a lot of the great programs that we have established.
Okay, has everybody had a chance to put a written question in that wanted to? Because we're to the question time where we can have people. Let's just take a second and get everybody's questions put in. Anybody else? Okay, Carrie, can I enlist your assistance? Can you grab like 5 or 6 of them out of there?
It's all your fault.
I'll go down for that. Thank you, everybody, for your concerns.
Okay,
It's awesome.
so I have 5 questions here. I'm gonna read one of them out and, let's see, Jimmy, I'm gonna have you start with the first one. Okay. Is it a viable and economical plan that the military bases across the country allocate a percentage to take care of the vets on site, and would you support this?
Is it a viable economic? Can I speak the question?
Sure. Then pass it to Laura when we're done. And then get back.
I'll read the question out again.
Go ahead.
Is it a viable and economical plan that the military bases across the country allocate a percentage to take care of the vets and site, and would you support this? This seems like it would be federal funding, and I absolutely would support federal funding to take care of our vets. I think that our veteran community it's part of the intricacies of Oceanside. Oceanside is made up of our veteran community, and anything that we can do to support our veterans, I'm all for it.
Sorry.
Okay, Laura, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're talking about a federal issue. We can't even control the money that's spent by the federal government. But I'm in agreement with Jimmy. Veterans are the fabric of our city. You know, we've had Camp Pendleton here for longer than I've been around, and which is not that long. It's long. But our veteran community is just crucial that we make sure that that our veterans are, especially our homeless veterans, that we're getting them the services they need, and if that means taking money that the government's willing to give us, then absolutely. But we don't control their spending, so I don't know how fair it is to answer a question about the federal government. But yeah, I'm in support of our veterans for sure.
Okay, next one. This is on traffic safety. Do you support, I'm sorry, Laura, you'll be the next one to take
Okay.
this. Do you support increased funding to traffic safety improvements, such as traffic calming program and traffic law enforcement?
Yeah, so I mean, I definitely think traffic is a major issue, and I know even here in South O, there's been discussions about putting crosswalks in and other calming measures. I am definitely in support of making sure people have safe access to our roads, but I also want to make sure that we're not putting in things that will then keep our traffic congested and not really serve the entire community. So I would have to say I'm in support of it. I think enforcement's probably a little bit more of a one that I would support rather than actually putting in barriers to making traffic flow well. You know, I know South O, they fought against the traffic calming road diet in downtown, which I'm so glad you guys did, because I'm not a fan of that either, because I think it's just gonna make our traffic along Coast Highway just even worse. I mean, we've seen it just with these roads that got narrowed down over here. But I just wanna make sure we're doing the right amount of studying to make sure that we're putting in things that make sense for everybody, not just the pedestrian, if that makes sense.
Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to canvass almost this entire neighborhood, and that has been one of the top issues that has come up from the residents, is especially a lot of like younger families or seniors saying that they don't feel safe crossing the street. We don't have crosswalks in South O. I believe that at one time it was promised that we would have a crosswalk from La Salina to Buccaneer, along with several streets here in South O. The residents on Vista Way have reached out to me extensively, feeling not safe at all with the crosswalk on Vista Way. Folks coming off the 78 trying to make it to Coast Highway, just flying down. I'm totally in support of implementing traffic calming measures, working with the city to make sure a study is done, so it's done in the best appropriate way for this community. But it's also about making sure that we're putting the largest weight of what's done here in South O based on what the community is requesting and suggesting and asking for. It is my understanding that the residents here have been asking for far too long, and many residents do not feel safe. I've talked with the residents here at La Salina, and one of the main things that they've said is that they would like to see a crosswalk from their community. This is a senior community, to be able to access Buccaneer, not have to walk up this hill and then cross and then walk back down. And so implementing traffic calming measures here for the South O community is something that I will prioritize if that's something the community wants me to prioritize.
Thank you. Okay, Jimmy, you'll be next to take the first. Okay, this is, why should we vote for you rather than the other candidate? Sorry, guys.
No, it's okay. I think, everyone has skills. I think that given where our city is right now, the biggest skill needed is leadership. And I believe not just in this race, but throughout our campaign, I have the most best set of skills when it comes to leadership that it's proven. You can see my track record. You don't have to guess. My leadership and what I've been able to accomplish here in the city of Oceanside and North County has been well documented in the Union Tribune, in the North County Times, for those of us that remember the North County Times, the Coast News, KPPS, CBS, ABC. The work that I've done has been well documented. When we needed to bring enhanced public safety in the Libby Lake community, I was called in to do that. When we needed to service our reentry community here in Oceanside that the county wanted to launch, and they selected, out of all the cities in the entire county of San Diego, they selected Oceanside to launch this reentry community for youth on juvenile probation, because they said that the data showed that that's where it needed to start. I was called to lead that. When one of our local homeless shelters was almost closing down and needed revitalization, I was brought in as the CEO to revitalize that organization. I've proven it throughout my career. My journey here in the city and being an advocate for our community, like I said, has been well documented since 2010. You don't have to guess with what kind of leader you're going to get when I'm elected. And the biggest skill that I feel that's made me successful is I'm attentive to the communities I serve, and I remain proximate to the communities I serve. It's not me saying this is the solution, it's us creating a solution and working together. And that's what I'm going to bring as your next council member.
Laura?
I think my skills as a mom really set me apart. And I know I said I have 6 kids. And being a local business owner, I've already talked about the fact that I have ran a business for 17 years and raised my children. If anybody knows my children, I know some do. I homeschooled all 6 children through high school. Except my youngest did go to private school the last few years, but I educated 6 children that went to college and have now become successful adults. I've run a business. I am unique in that I bring a fresh perspective, granted, I've never served on any commissions at the city, but I think that actually is a benefit because I can come in with a fresh perspective and give that outside business parent perspective to the city and take a fresh look at what's going on in the city. You know, I don't feel like I have to prove it either. I've got my proof is in my family and what I've done for them. And my we were in theater. I ran the Star Theater basically for many years, single-handedly. I was the house manager. I was the head costumer. My kids were in community theater. I put on Broadway production shows with 70 kids, ages 8 to 18, with theater moms galore, and everyone got along, and we all had a great time. So I feel like if I can do that, I can take on pretty much anything. So.
Thank you. Okay, the next question, Laura, you'll be the first one to answer. Excuse me. Okay. Everybody knows. You know what? I'm going to skip this one. Go to a different. What is your take on permit parking in the neighborhoods? Are you familiar with the permit parking program first?
I'm not familiar with a specific program. I would have to say I'm against generally permit parking. I mean, I guess there's probably certain neighborhoods where you're having a problem with people that live there, and with these new developments that are going in where you need to offer that space to the homeowners. But again, I guess it would be a case-by-case basis. If it makes sense in the city and it works for the residents and that's what they want, then I'd be for it. But I would want to know more facts about how it affects. You quit picking more questions. How it affects the whole community, not just a select few.
Yeah, I've heard it brought up several times, especially in this area. I think that is a decision for this community. That's who it's going to impact the most. And I believe that if a permanent parking process program would be implemented in South O, it would have to be overwhelmingly decided by this community because that's who's going to be the most impacted and affected by it. And then the city should oblige and work on a program to make sure to bring that into fruition if that's the best thing to make the parking issues in this community work. But at the end of the day, it has to be decided by this community.
Thank you. Okay. It's your turn to answer the next question. Our most recent ex-council members were real estate salesmen. Never mind. We're not going there now. Sorry about that, folks. Okay, the largest percentage of newly homeless in San Diego County are seniors and veterans who are losing their housing. How do you explain why you are helping investors? You know what this pertains to? Again, sorry guys. Can't read them all the way through. I'm going to let this one go through, but how do you prioritize beach restoration along with homelessness and crime? It's a valid question, and that's why I let it go through.
Me?
Jenny.
Oh, sorry. Okay. I think those are three separate issues that are all important to the residents of Oceanside, and I think that they all require attention and prioritization and operating and strategy. I think that one of the great things about our preventative programs here in Oceanside and how we worked in partnership with all of our nonprofit organizations, faith-based organizations, and police department is that crime is down in Oceanside. And so that is a great thing, and that's because of the collaborative spirit that we have here in the city. When it comes to homelessness, I think that, again, we do have some funding coming in from the state to help part of the southeast part of our district in the Tri-City area where I was born and raised. And again, it's working with nonprofit organizations to making sure nonprofit organizations, our local government, along with our partners, our partnering city, neighboring city with Carlsbad and working with their staff to making sure that we're utilizing that money efficiently to have a real impact to help people and elevate the quality of life for our residents. When it comes to restoring our sand, I mean, it's oceanside. We need to have sand on the beach, and so that's also another priority. Again, it's working with our city staff to making sure that it's not one or the other. These are all things that are important to our city, and we have to work effectively and strategically to address all three of them.
Laura?
Yeah, I mean, ditto. Right? I mean, those were the top three issues I said were my priority. So, you know, again, coming from this background of accounting, I have a budget-conscious mind. I'm fiscally conservative, and I want to make sure that whatever we do, that we are using our resources for those things that matter to a city: infrastructure, public safety, homelessness, quality of life issues that affect us every day, getting our potholes filled, not necessarily focusing on other pet projects that maybe sound like great ideas, but really are they something a city should be focusing on? And I can't even name one right now, but I know they come up in government. Everyone has their pet project. But I think as a whole, our government needs to be mindful of focusing on what a city should actually be doing, which is making sure our streets are safe, they're paved, we have sand on our beaches, and we feel safe walking through our neighborhoods.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next one would be Laura, you first. And it's our police department is regularly losing officers to cities that are paying better. How will you make our department competitive and retain officers?
Yeah, so like I said, I'm endorsed by the police department, the police association. And one of the things that came up when I met with them and talked about the future of our police department is retention, right? It's hard to be a police officer these days, if you hadn't noticed. It's easy to be a firefighter. Everyone loves a firefighter, but police, you know, they're not always called to the best situations, and they don't always get in the best situations. And I think we need to, one, have a culture in our city, which I think we, for the most part, love our police officers in Oceanside, but we need to make sure that we're emphasizing that. We also need to make it affordable to live here, because that's another reason we lose officers. I think it's like 70 or 80% of our police force lives in Temecula. So we need to figure out how we can get workforce housing here so that we have people that want to stay here and live here and own here and raise a family here. And another idea is to focus on, which I know Jimmy has, focus on our youth, bringing them up through and making police work attractive to our youth so that they want to stay in their community and be part of the police force, and just making sure that our officers and our police feel needed, wanted, and adored by our community, and feel like they have a sense of purpose, because I think there's things beyond salary that keep people in a community. And I know I've talked to a lot of police officers, and one of them, he grew up here. Of course, he lives somewhere else because he can't afford it, but he came back to Oceanside because he loves the city of Oceanside that he grew up in, and he wanted to serve here. So we just need to make sure that we're letting our police force know that we love them and we want them to be part of a great city.
Thank you. Okay, so Laura, you're going to be first.
Wait,
Jimmy.
Jimmy has an
Oh,
answer.
sorry, Jimmy.
It's okay.
I apologize.
So I've been working with OPD since 2013 with recruitment. Today alone, I was asked by someone I know in the community if they can list me as one of their references, because they're going through the process with OPD, and I've been the reference for several people who are now police officers here in the city of Oceanside. One of the strategies that myself and some of our chief and our captains have been working on is being really intentional about recruiting homegrown folks here from the city of Oceanside and North County, going out to our sports teams, our baseball team, soccer team, football team, basketball teams, not just in Oceanside, but in Carlsbad, Vista, and throughout the 78 corridor, speaking to our community colleges and getting in front of those students. If you're in North County, you grew up in diverse communities, so that's who we want on our force, folks that are from here, because we really feel, and we've seen it. A lot of my friends that I grew up with are on the police force, and they're some of our SROs, meaning that they're the school resource officers. Some of my friends growing up are on our neighborhood police team, and the impact that they have goes way above and beyond the impact that like I've seen others have, because they live here, they coach here. Some of those officers, the kids know them as coach because they're coaching the football team, they're coaching the soccer team, they're coaching at Breakers, they're coaching at the high schools. And these are officers that want to stay here because this is their community. I really believe as we continue to grow this homegrown model, we'll continue to have officers that are from here. And one of the things that I think is going to really allow us to do that is that our Assistant Chief Aldovinos, he's from Carlsbad. He went to Carlsbad High School. And then our new captain, Captain Scott Garrett, he's from Oceanside, and I think went to RBV. And so the more that we have our senior leadership from this community, the more that we can show our homegrown kids that you can become an officer and earn a really good wage and become a leader in our community.
Okay, Jimmy, you're first on this next one. Other than the hospitality industry, what sort of jobs should we try to attract, and what can the city do to attract them?
Yeah, So I sit on the MiraCosta Foundation board. I'm a MiraCosta alumni, so I love MiraCosta. For those of you that don't know, MiraCosta is one of the highest performing community colleges and the best quality community colleges in the entire country. It was a bridge for me to the rest of the world, and it really helped create economic and social mobility for me and my family. Higher education to me is such an important tool for our community, and it's partnering with MiraCosta to make sure that we're creating a workforce that can earn a livable wage, but also, one of the things that we can do as a city is also, right now, currently, we do not have a PLA agreement to work with our local unions, which can offer livable wage jobs to our community. A lot of our community members have union jobs here in the city of Oceanside, but they have to work in East County, down in San Diego County, because we don't have those projects here locally. And so I think by working with our local union community to also develop trade jobs that have good paying jobs, as someone that finishes their internship with an electrician company, once they pass that, they're making six figures. And that's someone that can do that with a high school diploma. The more that we can create those opportunities, Rancho Buena Vista High School, which the youth that go to that school are from District 3 in the Tri-City area, they have a trades program that they just developed that in the high school. The more that we can do that in our schools in Carlsbad, Vista, and Oceanside, these are Tri-City residents, the more that we can continue to promote livable wage jobs here in the city of Oceanside. And you don't have to go to school for 4 years. I'm a big proponent of higher education, but at the same time, I know that that's not for everyone. And so the more that we can promote trade jobs, I think that that'll help our community.
Thank you. Laura?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of similar, but I'm more of an entrepreneurial spirit. I'd like to encourage entrepreneurship as well, and that involves the city maybe getting out of the way of businesses starting up, or maybe offering ways for people to start up businesses. I know that when I was growing up, we had home ec, we had wood shop, we had shop in high school. People could learn how to put a car together, and a lot of those things have fallen away. And I know there's some recent legislation in the assembly, and maybe I think the governor might be signing to offer those opportunities to juniors and seniors in high school, that they can get a trade and not have to necessarily go to college and move in that direction, unless that's what they want to do. Of course, like I said, I went to college. My 5 out of my 6 kids went to college. And I think we need to make sure that we are supporting our local small businesses, because they are the ones that are, and whether it's in the hospitality or just running a business where someone can encourage others to come. And I don't know what kind of business that looks like. I don't know what that plan. I leave that to the higher people that get paid way more than me to figure out what businesses. I know we have we have Genentech, which has been a big boon for our area, but we need to make sure that we're planning. Your clock's not going, by the way, Joel, but I'll finish in a second. I just think we need to make sure that we're encouraging businesses to invest in Oceanside, whether that's in hospitality or in pharmaceuticals or whatever fits our workforce here. And I think entrepreneurship is a big part of that.
Thank you. Okay, Laura, you're going to be up first for this one. And I know that this doesn't really pertain so much to South O, but it's still an important question to us. What is your stance on the lane diet that the rest of the city is going to have to absorb, which will, even though we're not going to do it, affect us in that MERS situation?
Yeah, so I already kind of mentioned this earlier. I don't like a road diet. You know, I know this was passed 5 years ago, and people are kind of just now finding out about it, and I know it's maybe 5 to 10 years off to be complete. I guess I understand the purpose behind it was to make it more walkable, but I don't know. I have my concerns about traffic flow. I have concerns about fire trucks getting down there, delivery trucks getting down there, being pushed onto the side streets. That is a big concern. Some people that live on the side streets right off Coast Highway, Tremont and Freeman, they're going to have cars coming down their streets because they're going to avoid the road diet. So if it's inevitable, I guess, maybe, I hope not. I hope we can do some more studies to make sure that we're not putting something in place that really makes no sense for the entire community. But if we are, then we better darn well make sure that we're not impacting those residential neighborhoods which are right adjacent to the road diet. Again, we've seen it here. You take one area of a street and it becomes a nightmare for a block and a half, versus maybe if we get it all down. But I am opposed to road diets in general, and I hope that we do a little more studying to make sure we're not doing a bunch of infrastructure that doesn't even make sense for our city.
Thank you. Jimmy?
Yeah, I know that this has been contested by some of our small businesses, but I've also, been in meetings, in Main Street meetings and other meetings where the community has shared, different small businesses have shared how they feel the impact of when the motorcycles come flying down Coast Highway. I think I was at a Save Oceanside Sand meeting, and it was like, it almost felt like an earthquake coming down at times with some of the car speeding. We've had car accidents also between Seagays and, around Seagays, where cars are just flying down. Again, I think whenever you enter a specific neighborhood or a community, I've always taken the stance that those in that community, their voice should carry the heaviest weight because it's their community, they have to live there. If the businesses that, they're feeding their families with their small businesses, their voice should carry a lot of weight as well. However, we have seen, if you go down to Encinitas and Carlsbad and some of our southern coastal cities, the businesses and the communities there, they've really prioritized walkability, and you're seeing what appears from my perspective to be successful. But at the same time, it goes working hand in hand with the community. So as they're developing that road diet, because it seems like it's already going into place, is making sure that they're working with the small businesses and the community members that live there, and they continue to have input as it's being developed, and not just saying it's already done. Because I think that's what creates that disconnect between community and local government. And I think that that's where people start developing the mistrust for our local government and staff. So that's not healthy for our city.
Thank you. Okay, and I'm just going to throw this out for either one of you to answer, because I think it's just a general question. Somebody heard it referenced and didn't know what it was. So what is PLA agreement?
Public project labor agreements, that's when if there is something that the city owns or the school district and there's agreement taking place, the unions would be brought on to, the local unions would be brought on to work on that project. Again, so it would employ our local workforce with livable wage jobs, versus the city of Oceanside contracting out to a company in Arizona or wherever.
I'd like to.
Please.
Well, that's
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to say that I don't know the ins and outs of PLAs, project labor agreements, but my general understanding is that they don't create competition and they end up costing the city more money. I'm all for finding local contractors to be part and take part and not necessarily outsource jobs, but I think PLAs, from my understanding, is they don't allow that open competition to make sure the cost goes down. So I'd like to make sure that if we do end up having PLAs, which could happen, that we are making sure that everyone gets a fair shot at making sure we're not overspending and giving all our money to unions and not our local people, and misspending our tax money.
Any other questions?
Yes, I have.
Has to be a question, not a statement.
No. One of the questions that I have
Just
has to do with the state and the density. And I asked one of our council about why we weren't able to stand up to the state and the city, and he answered very intelligently that we took on the state, we lost $1 million plus, and we aren't doing it again with regard to density. So explain to me how you're going to buck that big of a system.
So I kind of answered it earlier.
Well, you said, yeah, but I felt there was a naivety.
Laura, then Jimmy. 2
Okay.
minutes each.
Okay. I don't know all the answers to everything. I'm telling you what through my process of even running and educating myself, my understanding is because we are a charter city, we can buck the system, but if we do it by ourselves, we shoot ourselves in the foot. So we have I think it's the League of Cities that has all the charter cities that are members. We need to get together with that League of Cities and really find out who's willing to fight back. And then beyond that, be careful who you vote for at the state level, because they're the ones making all these rules that are forcing it down our throat. So educate yourself and make sure that you know where your candidates stand on those types of laws going up in Sacramento.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I feel like this specific group was at the forefront 5-6 years ago when they were warning the city and saying, if you don't put a cap on short-term rentals, the state's gonna take control. And I felt like this group's been saying that for like 6 years, since 2018. And the state took control. We needed more housing. I think that what local city council members can do is decide and vote on what projects they will approve. And I think that in the past 6 years, we've had a council that will approve something that goes against the community, but then blame the state. And I think that people are frustrated with that because they're still voting yes on it, and they can vote no and look for a better project. And so to me, that's one way that you counter what's being enforced on the city is continue to work with the community, because at the end of the day, our city council is put in that place because you voted us in, not because, we work for you. City council works for the people. But at times it feels like the city council is working for the developers. And so we need to push back against that.
Over here.
Oh, I was going to respond. Huntington Beach is a charter, but they elect their city attorney, and he was elected on the platform that he would fight Sacramento on this density housing. We have an employed city attorney that the council approves, so he's not going to risk his paycheck by fighting for us, no matter what the council wants. And if the council cannot say no because the state laws let them.
Thank you for your statement. We're actually looking for more questions at this point,
Oh.
not comments. Are there any other questions for the candidates? Yes.
Hi.
I'm the former vice chair of the Housing Commission, and I was a member of the Homeless Ad Hoc Committee. We are losing rent control spaces in Oklahoma Parks at an alarming rate. And for everyone that's bought up by an investor, that's a space that did not go to house someone who needed the rent control. So I'm wondering, what is
Jimmy, then Laura.
I had the opportunity to meet. We have 3 mobile home parks in District 3, Rancho Calavero, Cavalier, and Las Salinas. And I met with the residents at all 3 different meet and greets, and we've canvassed all 3 mobile home parks, and that is their biggest fear, that developers are going to buy their property and they're going to be pushed out. Someone mentioned it earlier, but the population experiencing homelessness at the fastest rate right now in San Diego County is our seniors. Our seniors living on fixed incomes who can't afford just everything that it costs to live here. And for those that are in our mobile home park, that is one of our last forms of affordable housing. And so for me, I vow to our residents of our mobile home park, because Cavalier also has families, that I would continue to advocate for rent control in the mobile home parks, and I will do everything I possibly can on my end to advocate those mobile home parks going to developers.
Yeah, so we have 19 mobile home parks, I believe, in the city of Oceanside. 17? Okay. We've already had 2 close. So, I mean, obviously, the mobile home parks in our city are valuable. They're part of the fabric, just like I said, the veterans are part of the fabric. And, you know, again, as someone who works with seniors, and I've also actually sold and helped people purchase mobile homes, which happens to be one of the most affordable things you can do with the housing prices around here. So I get it. We need to make sure that our parks are protected. As far as investors buying up, that's where we need to get these private park owners solidified, and hopefully they will hang on to those properties. I don't know the answers to not letting investors buy them, other than working with our privately owned park owners to hopefully incentivize them to hang on to their parks. I don't know all the answers. I'm still learning about the ins and outs of the ownerships of the parks. But I definitely am for the rent control within the senior community, within this mobile home parks, and making sure those people are protected. They are our seniors, most of them, and even if it's a family park, there are lower income families that that's all they can afford, and I want to make sure we keep that going. So I don't know all the answers yet, but I'd love to talk to you more about what we can do as a city to make sure. Yeah, I know it's scary. It's very scary what's happening, and we want to make sure that they don't just demolition our mobile homes and build more 7-story mixed-use buildings, which is what seems to be happening everywhere.
That's it.
Any other questions from the floor?
Over here.
Or from the press?
Well, the last 2 former council members who are no longer on the council was Corey Jensen and Christopher Rodriguez. They were both rejected ultimately by the voters. Corey Jensen, who was appointed by 3 council members, 2 of them, Weiss and Kime, said they regret that. And I'm just wondering, for the love of God, do you think we could maybe, this is just a thought here, and I'd like you to comment, this is what I've heard, if you could respond. Maybe we could get somebody else besides another real estate agent, and you know, I just think that for the longest time, real estate agents have had their run, and I don't know, both of you, if you could comment about maybe we could try for something different this time.
Okay, so you're saying you'd like Laura to go first and ask whether we should have another real estate agent on the council?
Yes, I would like to tell her.
Well,
Okay,
well,
all right, go ahead.
obviously, as a real estate agent, I do want another real estate agent. However, I've been a broker for 17 years. I've contributed to our city. I've helped people with the American dream. I have been sold out to nobody in my real estate business. I've owned it myself. I've only hired a few agents throughout the years, but it's been pretty much me, even though it says group. It's me. Showing my kids what it means to take on self-employment and work hard. That's really all I've done. Some property management, which I've helped people stay in their homes affordably. I have never evicted any of my tenants in the 17 years I've been a property manager, because I've always worked with my tenants to make sure they stay. But I will say, even though I'm a real estate agent now, Ken, I am also a professional fiduciary, and that's really where most of my business has been starting to go, is to be so maybe you don't want a realtor. I won't be a realtor for long. I'm a fiduciary now, so you are getting something new with me. You're getting a professional fiduciary who has the interest of others higher than their own. That's the definition of a fiduciary. So hopefully that answers your question.
Jimmy?
Yeah, Oceanside is the third largest city in San Diego County. As you've seen, we've run into a lot of issues here in our city. And there's a lot of issues that need to be addressed. I think that requires proven leadership. Also leadership that has education. I've graduated from UC Berkeley with a degree in political science. I also have a Juris Doctorate. I've operated multiple programs in our city, but I've also worked with city staff all across the levels of our city of Oceanside, from our chief of police, our chief of the fire department, along with our neighborhood housing, our resource development staff. But my leadership across the work that I've done has also given me the opportunity to work with council members across the 78 and the 5 and their staff to not just address things here in Oceanside, but address things on a regional level. That's leadership. Like I said, we're the third largest city in the county of San Diego, and we need folks that have the education and the proven leadership that's well documented, that can bring solutions, that's going to listen to the community, and that you're not guessing if this person's going to make the community a priority, but that you know based on previous work. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question for both candidates, and you mentioned regional cooperation. So one issue right now is that certain types of regional funds are allocated by SANDAG, San Diego Association of Governments, and a policy change out of Sacramento 4 or 5 years ago said that basically the city of San Diego and Chula Vista can unilaterally make any decision they want. And there's been ongoing concern by the North County cities that things such as 78 expansion or other North County priorities are chronically underfunded because basically the South County interests have control of the purse of SANDAG. So obviously there's limits to what individual cities can do or even a group of cities can do, but still, what do you think that the city of Oceanside and its representatives should be doing to try to come up to make sure that North County's concerns are properly funded by SANDAG and by the county?
Let me answer first.
Well, you're next, yes.
Oh, okay. I think that requires a regional collaboration with our other North County cities. I was in a meeting this morning, and like I mentioned, I'm the co-chair of the North County Community Leadership Team, which convenes nonprofit leaders and community leaders as far as Ramona and Julian, Fallbrook, Bonzel, everyone down to Encinitas. And I think, again, it's working regionally and collaborative as a North County, as a region, working together. I've shared this with multiple leaders. I've shared this with the police department recently with some of our homeless issues, that we need to work along with our other local law enforcement. I think, given my background as, you know, the work that I've done, but especially as a CEO, all that work has been nonpartisan. I've developed relationships. It doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum folks are on. It's about getting things done to service the community. And I think those relationships are going to allow me to be really effective in leadership here, advocating for the city of Oceanside against SANDAG, working with our Coastal Commission and other county and regional entities, and bringing and uniting our North County leadership, as I have done throughout my career.
So SANDAG, for those that don't know, used to have a weighted vote and a city vote, where you kind of like Congress and Senate, right? You have your representatives from each city could vote, and then they did a weighted vote, which means the more population you have, the more your vote counted. They passed a law. Lorena Gonzalez helped craft a law that basically said the weighted vote is all that counts. The weighted vote is all that counts, which means the city of San Diego and the city of Chula Vista have 50% of the vote in SANDAG. They get to decide what happens in North County if they can pull one other city to their side. So it is crucial that we have every other city and work on those cities, but I don't know how that might happen. We have every other city besides those two working to combat the amount of money they're spending on downtown San Diego, because that's all they're spending their money on is the airport, San Diego, downtown, and they are forgotten about the North County. They promised us, with a sales tax increase, they promised us wider lanes on the 78. I mean, how many years have we been waiting for the 78 and the 5 interchange to get done? Now they're saying 5 to 10 years. And I just think that we need to make sure that our Sandag representative, right now it's Ryan Kine, is working with the other cities that are not Chula Vista and San Diego to make sure we hold the line and we get our projects done in North County and not just let them roll over us.
Sorry for my ignorance, but I heard you say that you were endorsed by the police association.
Yes.
And this is a question for both of you, but you work with the police. You work with the recruiting area. So I'm a little confused. What's the police association, and is it different than the actual local police? I mean, I know it's all one and the same. I kind of want some clarity on that, so I have a better understanding of what your backing is and what he does.
Wait, Laura goes,
Oh, sorry.
Laura's next.
So
Laura
the
goes.
association, it does not include the entire police force. They are a separate entity that is basically the negotiators for a lot of their contracts and working with retaining police officers. And so they're a different body than the actual police force. But they're the ones that actually make those endorsements. They meet with the candidates. The line guys that are out there every day, they're not allowed to make endorsements. That's just, they're city employees, they're not allowed. This is a separate entity that represents the police officers. And so that's the difference between the two. I don't know how, I mean, Jimmy can probably speak to that too because he's been around the police for a lot, but yeah. So I'm endorsed by the Police Officers Association. We both interviewed with them and they chose me.
So the OPOA is the Political Action Committee. It is an organization. I was not interviewed by them. They never called me to interview, which really surprised me. And I had many folks on the police department come up to me and they told me that they didn't know that happened, and that regardless of that, I had their support. But that is a political action committee. It is not the police department. It's a political group. And
So they didn't call me, I called them. So that's another reason that maybe, and I didn't realize that they led me to believe that they had met with Jimmy, but I reached out to them. So maybe they just don't reach out, they wait for the candidates to reach out to them personally.
yeah, and it also they made that endorsement in October of 23, so way before everyone else started doing endorsements or having interviews. By the time that I reached out, the endorsement was already done, and so to me it seemed more of a it was shocking to me, as you can imagine.
Other questions?
Kim?
Anybody who hasn't asked a question yet? All right, we could ask Ken or we could ask Ken. Ken, is this a question or a statement?
This is a question.
Okay.
Many of the people in here were instrumental in getting the city to not put roundabouts here in South Oceanside. And it was my understanding that you also were lobbying to get,
Like crossings.
crossings on Kelly and Morse.
4th Street.
Right, and then all of a sudden, there's one in front of the Chamber of Commerce and In and Out. And Jimmy, you brought this up to me about that, and I thought that was interesting. Can you tell everybody what you said about that reality, that these people were basically pooped on, and after all these years of lobbying for it, after however many incidents and accidents we've had, why the chamber? I don't know, if you said it better than I did.
Could you put that in the form of a question?
Yeah, Jimmy, what do you think about that? What did you tell me about that?
It has to be a question that
Yeah.
both candidates can answer.
No, yes.
I can start.
What would you each say about that?
I would say that it's obvious that certain communities are neglected. It's obvious that certain communities are underserved and have historically been underserved, and it seems like the communities that, or the areas of Oceanside that tend to get the resources that everyone else is asking for, that the city tells us there's no money for, or that they say that it's not possible to do because the study said we can't do it. Somehow they appear in areas that tend to provide the most support for those in office. And the chamber being one of them. You know, the candidates that the majority of our council right now is chamber endorsed. We talked about me not receiving the OPOA, the police support the union. That was all aligned with the chamber. If you look at who the chamber endorsed, that's who the OPA, that's who the Oceanside Police Officers Association endorsed. They're in alignment. That's what we've had before, and that's what our majority has been historically in the city of Oceanside. Nothing's going to change if that continues to be the same come this election cycle.
Laura, since you didn't actually talk to Ken, let me rephrase the question. They got a crosswalk, we didn't. What are you going to do about it?
Well, first of all, I don't know the ins and outs of why they got it. My only guess would be that because there's that monstrosity that got built across the street from the chamber. So obviously there's going to be a lot of traffic coming in and out of that building. Which again, a lot of
Crosswalks.
Yes, crosswalk. That's why I'm saying the crosswalk was there. As far as advocating here, I think that, and I answered this in one of the questions online. Main Street has been a force to be reckoned with in downtown, and they get a lot of what they want. And I know that the Oceanside Merchants and Business Association has been around for a long time, probably even longer than Main Street, that Richard and Colleen and Joel are part of. I think that we need to energize that group more, get more stakeholders, get more business owners involved in addressing South O. You guys did it with keeping the road diet away, so let's use it to now get stuff done here that needs to be done, like crosswalks, if they make sense. Yeah.
Can I ask one last question?
Sure, Ken.
You advocate safety, and geographically, the I-5 is like a half mile to the coast, so how are you going to maintain, what are you going to do to protect South Oceanside? Because we have school, that's why we fought the roundabouts, for
Right.
those kids to be able to cross, so what
Right.
are you going to do?
Well,
Wait, hang on before.
Yeah.
So what specifically is your question?
Like, what are you going to do to help maintain safety in the South O community?
Okay.
We didn't get our blocks, we didn't crosswalk, we lighted crosswalks. A lot of things we were promised we did not get.
Okay, Laura, then Jimmy.
right, so kind of what I was just alluding to is we need to get the community more involved to push back and advocate for what we want in this community. So I don't know how else to answer that, but I'm one. When I'm elected, I'm
We're
one
not
of.
putting that on you.
I'm one of 5 council members that make those decisions, and really the city themselves makes a lot of those decisions, right? They bring them to the council and they just kind of throw it at them and say, could you just approve that? So I would love to have this group and get more stakeholders here to come up with a plan that we can then take to the city and say, hey, this is what we really want to see happen. Like I said, Main Street has mastered the art of getting what they want downtown, and it needs to happen in South O as well.
I feel
Okay.
like,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I feel like this group has been doing it, but the council says no. And I know recently with the short-term rental advocacy, there was something said amongst this group that said, given the current makeup of the council, this is the best choice that we think that they'll select. But it was this group feeling like we have to settle because the current council is never going to really give us what we want. This group's been advocating for far too long. Things have been promised in this community for far too long, but the council keeps saying no. What needs to change is the council. What needs to change is the council majority. This community has been fighting. This community has created proposals. Every time I go to a South O meeting, I hear Colleen saying, everyone show up on this day because they're having this discussion. Everyone come on Wednesday. And then the group shows up. How many times have you all been to council? Everyone presents and then they vote no. Or they vote yes, right? The council needs to change. I've talked with the residents here, my volunteer team that's been canvassing in this community. I can't tell you how many times young parents say, I have a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old. I can't tell you how many times we hear we need safe routes to school. We need safe routes to school. I hear that all the time from this community. That shouldn't be something that we have to say more than once. We're talking about the kids in our community, and cars are flying down the street. It's not your advocacy, it's the council.
We have to be out of here by 7:30, so we're gonna go.
8:30.
8:30. So we're gonna go to closing statements from the candidates. So Laura, you went first last time, so Jenny, you have 3 minutes for your closing statement, and then Laura, and then we're done.
I won't stand between you guys and your bed or dinner. But I just want to thank you guys all for your time. Colleen, Joel, Richard, when you watch this later, thank you so much for organizing. Thank you all for coming out this evening and staying engaged in the community. I love Oceanside. Oceanside has home. Oceanside is home. Oceanside has always been home. Oceanside will always be home. Everything that I've ever done for this community has been based off of what the residents have shared with me that they want me to advocate for. That's not going to change whether I'm elected or I'm not. I'm going to continue to service this community whether I'm elected or I'm not. And that's my promise to all of you. You know, I came up with my priorities, not with something that I said, this is what I want to change. My priorities were established based on what the community said to me. And those are going to continue to change as the things change in our city. And one thing I can promise you, my top priority will always be the community's priority. So I hope this November I have your vote, but also know that whether I'm elected or office or not, I'm going to continue to promise my service to this community because I love Oceanside. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Colleen and Richard and Joel for putting this together. What a great opportunity to come out and really engage with the community other than Jimmy and I out there walking. We have 2 other candidates in our race, and I really want to say my hats off to all 4 of us for putting ourselves out there. This is a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to take the tough questions and give your honest opinion. I think I just bring a unique perspective in that, like I said, I raised 6 kids. I am a business owner. I know what it takes to work hard and be diligent and not know where my next paycheck is going to come from, which is what a real estate agent does. They don't know where their next paycheck is coming from. So I relate to so many people in this community that are just working hard, trying to put food on their table. And, you know, as a fiduciary, my number 1 job is to listen to my clients, find out what their needs are, and help them accomplish that. And that's who I am as a person. That's who I will be on the city council. Neither one of us have ever been on the council, so when he says somebody new, I'm new too. My mom was on the city council for 8 years in the 90s, Colleen O'Hara, if any of those that know her. She has taught me to leave a community better than when you left it. And that's my goal, is to leave Oceanside better than when I found it, which was a long time ago. But I'm still working on that. I will bring common sense, and I will be a voice, an ear for you to come to. You can call me anytime, even now, and express your concern to me. And I may not know every answer. I may not know every word, but I know where the dictionary is. And that's my saying in life, is just find out what the answers are as best you can, but use your wisdom and your common sense. So vote for Laura Bassett in November. Thank you.
Thank you, panelists, for coming out. Thank you all.